Hello students, welcome back to the online class. In this video, we are going to understand part 2 of our lesson, the storyteller. So here our page 87 finished and the next part we are starting here, part 2. The stranger was telling a story. He had started the story. He started telling about a girl, and here is a little bit description about the girl, and after that what happens, that we are going to understand. So let us read this part 2. She was so good, continued the bachelor continued his story, and he is describing the girl in his story, means the protagonist in the story, that she won several medals for goodness, which she always wore pinned on to her dress. These medals she had won for goodness and pinned onto her dress means always it was the medals were with her to her dress. With a pin, it was attached to her dress. There was a medal for obedience means obeying or following whatever people, elder people, parents, teachers, or relatives say. That is obedience. Another medal for punctuality means doing the things on time, and a third for good behavior. They were large metal medals and they clicked against one another as she walked, means they clicked and they made the sound when she walked. No other child in the town where she lived had as many as 3 medals. So everybody knew that she must be an extra good child. Means no other child had 3 medals, but she had. Horribly good, quoted Cyril. Everybody talked about her goodness. And the prince of the country got to hear about it. And she said that as she was so very good, she might be allowed once a week to walk in his park. So here everybody talked about the girl, and this is why the prince came to know. The stranger is saying this story, and he said that as she was good, this is why she should be allowed to walk in his park, a garden type park it is, which was just outside the town. It was a beautiful park, and no children were ever allowed in it. Now means this girl is first, so it was a great honor for Bertha to be allowed to go there. Because she was first, this was a great honor, great respect by the prince to her to allow to go in the park. Were there any sheep in the park? Demanded Cyril. Now Cyril is asking, were there any sheep? Because just before this story, Cyril had seen some sheep outside the window of the train. This is why this idea might have come in his mind. So he is asking, were there any sheep? No, said the bachelor. There were no sheep, but there were other small, harmless animals in the park. Harmless means which cannot harm anyone. Such animals are harmless animals. The storyteller paused to let a full idea of the park's treasures sink into the children's imaginations. Then he resumed. Now he paused means he waited for 1 or 2 minutes, means the full idea of parks treasures means here what treasure means, we know what is a treasure means, a collection of money or coins or notes, that is treasure, or a valuable stones. But here the treasure is related to the things which are present in the park. Treasures sink into the children's imaginations. Sink into the children's imaginations means it should the children should get idea that what is there, what treasure was there. That means sink into the children's imaginations. They should get the imagination. They should have the imagination. Then he resumed again. Bertha was rather sorry to find that there were no flowers in the park. Means she found that there were no flowers. She had promised her aunts with tears in her eyes that she would not pick any of the kind prince flowers, and she had meant to keep her promise. So of course it made her feel silly to find that there were no flowers to pick. Means she had promised to aunt that she will not pluck the flowers. But here what happened? She found that no flowers are there. This is why she is feeling silly. I made a promise and here flowers itself are not there. Why weren't there any flowers? Now the children are asking, because the animals had eaten them all, said the bachelor promptly. Now the bachelor answering this, the gardeners had told the prince that you couldn't have animals and flowers. So he decided to have animals and no flowers. Now this is very natural that gardener who keeps the garden, who maintains the garden, that person told to king that you can keep flowers or you can keep animals, any one thing. If you keep both, animals will eat the flowers and there will not be flowers. So the prince decided that animals should be there. So animals they kept and they ate the flowers. There was a murmur of approval at the excellence of the prince's decision. So many people would have decided the other way. What this line says that there was a murmur. Murmur means what? Murmur means a, a discussion within people, and the murmur is told about a sound which is not very audible, very clear, which anyone else can hear. So such a discussion was there means a suppressed discussion which is not clear about the approval and the excellence of the prince decision. Means this decision prince kept the animals. About this people were talking back to him, and people would have decided the flowers instead of animals, but king decided the animals. So this is why people were talking back to him. His decision was not good. Now there were lots of other delightful things in the park. There were ponds with gold and blue and green fish in them. Such fishes were there in the pond, and there were ponds with gold and blue and green fish in them, and trees with beautiful parrots that said clever things. Means these parrots, they knew some words and they said them clever things at a moment's notice, and hummingbirds that hummed all the popular tunes of the day. These hummingbirds they also hummed, means they sang all the popular tunes, means popular songs or popular poems or musics of the day. Bertha walked up and down and enjoyed herself immensely. Up and down she walked in the garden in the park and enjoyed herself immensely. Immensely means what? Immensely means very very much. She enjoyed very much and thought to herself, if I were not so extraordinarily good, should I should not have been allowed to come into this beautiful park and enjoy all that there is to be seen in it. Now she is thinking that if I were not so extraordinarily good and I am good, this is why Prince allowed me. Otherwise, he would not have allowed me. And her three medals clinked against one another as she walked and helped to remind her how very good she really was. So, whenever the sound of clinking of those medals came, that time she reminded that she is good and she is good. Thereafter, just then, an enormous wolf came prowling into the park. Enormous means very big, and prowling means moving quietly without any noise or sound into the park to see if it could catch a fat little animal for its supper. Supper means what? Supper means meal of the day. So here the first thing that it saw in the park was Bertha. The wolf was searching something to eat. A fat little animal means fat means much flesh should be there in the animal, and this is why it seems the wolf was hungry. And here he found Bertha. Her pinafore was so spotlessly white and clean. What is pinafore? Pinafore is apron like cloth which girls wear above their clothes. Apron like cloth. So pinafore was so spotlessly white. It is like doctors which doctors wear the apron like that. This pinafore is and clean that it could be seen from a great distance. That dress was very bright white. This is why the wolf noticed it. Bertha saw the wolf and saw that it was stealing towards her. Stealing means moving quietly, secretly towards her. This stealing means moving quietly towards her, and she began to wish that she had never been allowed to come into the park. Now she began to wish, means to pray, that why I came here. She ran as hard as she could, and the wolf came after her with huge leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds means it was running rapidly in fast progress. The wolf was running rapidly with long jumps. She managed to reach a shrubbery of myrtle bushes. Myrtle, myrtle here meaning is given in the textbook. Myrtle bush with shiny leaves and sweet smelling white flowers. So myrtle bush was there, and she came near it and she hid herself. This hid is the past tense of hide herself in one of the thickest of the bushes. In a thick bush she went, so that thick bush will cover her and the wolf will not be able to see her. The wolf came sniffing among the branches. Sniffing means what? Taking the smell. And its black tongue lolling out of its mouth and its pale grey eyes glaring with rage. Lolling out means hanging out its mouth, and pale grey means faint grey eyes. Glaring means what? Glaring means shining. So with rage, rage means what? Violence or anger was there in his eyes. Bertha was terribly frightened. Terribly frightened means very much frightened. She was frightened, and a fear was there inside her, and thought to herself, if I had not been so extraordinarily good, I should have been safe in the town at this moment. Now she is thinking that I am good. This is why Prince allowed me to come here. and this is why I am not safe now. And if I was not good, I would have remained safe in the town itself at this moment. However, the scent of the myrtle was so strong that the wolf could not sniff out where Bertha was hiding. So, wolf was not able to take the smell of Bertha because of myrtle flowers. Myrtle flower smell was very strong, and the bushes were so thick that he might have hunted about in them for a long time without catching sight of her. In the bushes, he might have hunted, means he might have searched long time, but he could not have got Martha. So he thought he might as well go off and catch a little animal instead. Now he thought that he should go back and he should catch any other little animal instead of Bertha. Bertha was trembling very much at having the wolf prowling and sniffing so near her. Now what happened? Bertha Bertha was trembling. Trembling means what? Her body was shaking very much at having the wolf prowling. Means the wolf was moving there secretly and it was moving to search Bertha and it was sniffing also, and the wolf was so near, and as she trembled the medal for obedience clinked against the medals for good conduct and punctuality. Means the sound of medals came because she was trembling, means her body was shaking due to fear. The wolf was just moving away, and very unfortunate that the wolf was moving away, but the wolf, when he heard the sound of the medals clinking, and stopped to listen, and due to that sound of medals he stopped to listen from where that sound was coming. They clinked again in a bush quite near him. He dashed into the bush, his pale grey eyes gleaming with ferocity and triumph. Ferocity as well as triumph. Pale grey eyes gleaming. Gleaming means what? Shining. And again, uh, ferocity. With ferocity means what? With violence, great violence, and uh, triumph means a feeling of victory, feeling of happiness. So this is how it became happy to get Bertha and dragged Bertha out. It perhaps held Bertha in his mouth and dragged out and devoured her to the last morsel. Devoured means to eat quickly. He devoured her to the last morsel. Morsel means the short piece of food. All that was left of her were her shoes, bits of clothing, and the three medals for goodness. Only these things were remaining, and the wolf ate everything. He ate Bertha completely. The story began badly, said the smaller of the small girls, but it had a beautiful ending. Now, this story is sounding beautiful to these children because this story was different than the stories which aren't told to them. In this story, the girl died due to her goodness. Here, this is why repeatedly it is said that the medals clinked against each other. This is why Bertha was killed. Thereafter, Bertha also thinks that I am good. I was good, and this is why King allowed me, Prince allowed me come here, and this is why I am not safe. This thing shows that her opinion changed about goodness. So this thing liked by the children because a novelty was there, a different thing was there in the story. It is the most beautiful story that I ever heard, said the bigger of the small girls with immense decision. Immense means a firm decision, fixed decision. So it is the most beautiful story, she tells. It is the only beautiful story I have ever heard, said Cyril. Now the Cyril, the boy also says the same thing in these three lines, three sentences. All the three children expressed their likeness to the story. They liked the story. A dissentient opinion came from the aunt. Dissentient means which opinion? Here meaning is given. Different. The opinion which is different, not agreeing. She was not agreeing opinion was there. And she told that story was not good. A most improper story to tell to young children. You have undermined the effect of years of careful teaching. Undermined means what? Made weak. Made weak or less important. Why? Because since many years she had been teaching to the children about the importance of goodness, and here in this story the goodness has become the cause of death of Bertha. This is why he has made less important the years of careful teaching, the effect of years of careful teaching. At any rate, said the bachelor, collecting his belongings preparatory to leaving. Means he was preparing to go out, and I kept them quiet for 10 minutes, which was more than you were able to do. Now he is telling that you were not able to make them quiet, and my this story, which is improper, made them quiet for this much time, 10 minutes. And this is why at any rate means my story may be good or bad, but the children kept quiet. They heard it with curiosity, with so much interest, and this is why they liked it. Unhappy woman, he observed to himself. He observed himself means he said to himself as he walked down the platform of Templecombe station. For the next 6 months or so, those children will assail her in public with demands for an improper story. Now, what he is telling to himself that assail meaning is their attack. So he is telling to himself, not to the lady or not to anyone. He is telling that the woman was unhappy, and for next 6 months the children will not forget the story, and children will demand improper story near the woman, means near their aunt, because they liked this story, and there was a craze in this story, there was a novelty, and whatever aunt told in that, a novelty was not there, tragedy was not there, and in every story only emphasis about good things was there. So this thing the writer told. The story was by H. Munro, or Saki is the short name nickname of the writer. This is how our lesson was. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. Write down the difficult words explained in the video. After this, exercise will be given to you on the passage to solve. So have fun. Take care. Thank you.